Carlos Nelson with the Kansas City Business Association, and tonight we have a special guest, one of our long-time elected officials fighting for the community, Mr. Brandon Ellington. He's running for city council. Brandon, tell our audience what district you're running for.
I'm running for a 3rd District City Council at large. I'm currently the 22nd District State Representative, so my current district goes from Truce over to Independence, Missouri, and then obviously 3rd District at large is a citywide election.
Tell our audience, why do you want to run for city council?
Oh man, that's a whole bunch of reasons. How much time do we have?
You got all the time in the world.
One, it starts with leadership. So being an elected official at the state, I look down and I see a whole bunch of missed priorities from the city. When we talk about economic density, when we talk about violence, when we talk about infrastructure repair, maintenance, when we talk about new growth, environmental design, all of these issues are issues that I want to address on the local level. From a state level, I've been working on social issues, criminal justice reform issues, educational reform issues, tax incentive lockdowns, and I'll be looking to address those issues in a similar fashion on the local level.
All right. Tell our audience what legislation, what have you done as an elected official? You know, I'm from New York, but I've been here since '78, and now I'm like the show me state. Show me.
No,
and I haven't seen too much from individuals. I see this, but show me what legislation, show me what changes. Can we talk about what you've done?
First, I'm going to tell people to go to the website. So if you go to the house.mo.gov website, you can pull up a list of the legislation that I filed. You can pull up previous sessions, and you can see legislation that actually went over to the governor's desk. Since I've been in office, I say this proudly, I'm either a sponsor or co-sponsor over 41 pieces of legislation that's actually been signed by the governor. The last big bill I moved was last year, and that was a bill to remove the statute of limitations from victims of child abuse and sexual molestation. I've been working on that bill since 2012, roughly. Next month will be my 4th job fair targeting ex-offenders. So I don't just talk about issues, I actually am able to produce. And I'm also proud to say that Cameron Correctional Facility was a huge issue.
Was that a huge issue.
But they're closing now.
How much time did you spend on that, Brandon? It seemed like months and months and months and months. I was like, this brother's glued on that, and they tried to swat you away a couple of times. That's not a major thing that I pay attention, but you coming across the news, and I follow what's going on in Jeff City. That was a tremendous feather in your cap to make that happen.
I know, it's all God. So the facility is closing now. I'm still involved in that issue in overt correctional reform. So I'm still soliciting the Department of Justice to come in and do a total investigation on all our correctional facilities. But with the Cameron facility, it was constitutional violations, it was health concerns in there, obviously it was unsafe conditions for inmates and the staff that works there, and it was a lot of abuse that was going on, circumventing policy. So the Department of Corrections have policies and guidelines that they have to follow. And they were circumventing those, which led to the riot, which led to the long-standing lockdown, which led me to assemble a coalition of Democrats, Republicans, House members, and senators.
That was my next question, my friend. How good are you at building coalitions?
That's all I do.
Because that is... They say the money is the currency, but building those coalitions, being able to think like-minded on certain issues with people that might be across the aisle and what have you. And I think that's a problem that we've had at City Hall to a degree.
Yeah, building coalitions is all I do. So since I've been at the state, that's how I have language implemented in over 41 bills, again, that's been signed by the governor. And I say that because the legislative process at the state is different than at the city. At the state level, you're looking at 82 votes to get anything out of the House, and then you're looking at 23 votes to get anything out of the Senate. And that's not including the committee and the subcommittee that your legislation is referred to, that you have to have it heard in, voted out of, and sent to another committee. And I said all that to say this. building coalitions is what I do. I look at issues. I don't block vote, meaning I'm the Democratic whip. So when I say this, I actually... Yeah.
Democratic whip, you hear the brother? I like that. All right.
I've been blessed to be in leadership. And again, that shows coalition building, because to get elected in leadership, you have to get elected by your colleagues, and all of your colleagues is in the political arena. All of your colleagues want some type of feather in their hat for what they're doing. So building coalitions and working across the aisle and working with people on issues is what it's about. I care not if somebody's a Republican or Democrat, independent, or libertarian. I care not if somebody comes from an affluent community or impoverished community. If we can discuss issues and we can talk about issues and identify issues, then we can come to some type of agreement. Meaning, if it's wood on the table, we may have a different interpretation of how we want to utilize that wood. But as long as we agree that this is wood,
right?
All right, now we can negotiate how we want to.
All right,
split this.
I'm glad that you talked about that, because I want to talk about specifically our community, and I think that is a big boil in our community about working together and the personalities versus the issues.
Yes.
And that is stymieing us from the potential that we have to bring our community together, where we can utilize our strength in an economic way and a political way. What do you have to say on that subject matter?
It's time that Kansas City citizens wake up, and it's in particular anybody that stay east of Truth. So since I've been in office, I have not been supported by any of the African American political leadership. And it hasn't been because I'm ineffective. It's been because I've refused to do things that will continue to oppress individuals in this community. And it's the same when you talk about opinions or personalities versus reality. So what we have here is personalities that don't care about issues. And I'm saying this out of experience. And
hold it, I'm dealing with the same thing. How can we have the largest digital network, sports, only black-owned digital network in the Midwest, and our political organizations have not utilized us, really?
Because what I've seen is they only support things that give them or funnel them money. And I say that for all the initiatives that I've done. When I say that I'm on my 4th job fair, they know about it, but they don't support these job fairs. Now, when you talk about the proliferation of individuals on the east side of Kansas City that has some type of record, and then you bring in a job fair that targets ex-offenders, and you say that you're about promoting unity, you're about advancing African American access and opportunities, why aren't you supporting job fairs?
Well, let's even get off that, because hold it. All of that is self-explanatory to our audience, and the thing I've trying to do with these interviews is wake our community up in layman's terms. Look what you have received over the last 30 years. And if you're older, think 30 years ago what was coming into your community through these organizations. A whole lot was coming 30 years to you. And me, I only can talk for what I see. We have not gained a single inch, and I'm talking about an inch, in our economic endeavors in the African American community. We pay taxes.
Yeah, we've actually regressed. And a lot of that will go back to the personalities and what people in positions of power are actually fighting for and what their motivation is. So going back to the state, I'm able to work with people from rural communities, Republicans that have nothing to do with the inner city, to advance legislation that would actually benefit folks in the inner city, which means to me that it's not impossible to get economic density, it's not impossible to get infrastructure repairs, it's not impossible to get buy-in on issues that will be over.
No, your representatives got to represent you.
Yes.
And going back to building coalitions, I had some conversations last night. You've got 2 city council from 5th and 3rd district. So that means you got 4 you got 4 council people. So that's 4 should be 4 automatic votes going in the same direction. That has not been the case.
Well, one of the reasons is lack of a viable plan on the board. And I say that because you can't build a coalition without some type of issue that is beneficial across the board, because politics is about who gets what. So when you look at the East Side representatives, they have not presented any type of viable economic plan. They have not presented any type of crime-related plan that actually utilizes best practices and different tools and techniques to actually get to the goal.
Cut you off on this. Crime. All I can see marching and praying and this and that. And our community, and this is something specifically with Kansas City I see more so. These rallies and what have you. Oh, what are we going to do about the crime? Put some economics in the community.
Yes.
If there was economics in the community, this you would have some crime, but you would not have this crime. Straighten your schools out. The kids would be in school. They'd learn. But instead of you representing that trend of thought when you're voting for these bills and these airports and these hotels and all of that, that's the problem with the crime, in my estimation.
No, I don't.
You're gonna have crime, but the crime that we have and the killings we have, to me, it all boils down to economics.
I don't disagree with you. Economics is definitely a pivotal issue, and so is the social element and the culturalistic influences that not only produces crime, but allows the criminal activity to be normalized. And that goes back to either engage.
What did you say? Key word. Normalize.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
That goes back to either engage leadership or disengaged leadership. So on the east side of Kansas City, where most of the violent crime happens, we have disengaged leadership that does not address the undercurrents of crime. It's like your sink is leaking, and the only thing I do is bring in a mop, and I keep mopping, and I wonder why.
How do you feel about? I had this conversation with Crosby Kemper about the downtown council and their leadership or lack of leadership. He said that they had been somewhat disengaged, but they're trying to re-engage. Then this two-part question. All the development that has taken place that I know of in our community, and please, not with a broad stroke, we're talking about most of it, has been subsidized by the city. We haven't really had any private development of any consequence. As a council person, how would you see that?
Now that's the difference between being at the state and on the council.
Yeah.
So at the state we do the rubrics. On the council you'll be directly involved in sitting down with the developers and creating mixed development plans, and that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to. I believe that the east side hasn't had any, again, because we have lack there of leadership that has a vision and a plan. When you talk to developers want to develop because this is what brings them in money. When you talk about land, the east side of Kansas City has access to land that needs to be developed because it's underdeveloped. Now, it's a perfect hybrid to actually build, but you actually have to have an economic plan. So one of the things that I'm looking forward to doing is creating mixed development usages. So I'm the former chair of the Black Caucus. So as the Black Caucus chair, I was allowed to tour the states. And by touring the states, I was able to see cities that implemented best practices and they revitalized communities. And again, that just takes creating a viable plan, and then you get buy-in on the city because let's say you in North Kansas City. Well, North Kansas City folks understand diversifying the tax base. They understand the equity that happens when you have multiple areas that are economic engines. And the east side of Kansas City is a central business district, and it should be an economic driver.
Well, tell me this: how do you find it for African American businesses here in Kansas City? Is there opportunity, or what do you see?
Opportunities can be created using our current tax.
No, I'm talking about what do you see?
I see none, really.
Yeah. Oh,
right
that's what I'm talking about. Oh, there's definitely opportunities out here, but you've got to know that they exist.
Yes.
It's like you go to the shoe shop and you say, I want some heels and soles. And the man has 100 different heels and soles. And he said, what do you want? I'm like, you the shoemaker. You got to tell me what you have to offer. Yes. And then I can tell you. And most of the time, we don't know what's out there to ask for.
And that goes back to disengaged leadership.
Yeah, go. Yeah. Go, boys, go.
Yeah, so leadership, and I'll just give you examples of things.
Yeah, please.
So when I do resource opportunity drives and stuff like that, we bring the people there. And then we publicize it so people know to come in and get access to these opportunities. As a council member, that's one thing that they should be engaged in. When you talk about home ownership, it should be all type of functions going on. when you talk about encouraging and incentivizing small businesses, that's the backbone of communities. And as a council member, your job is to what? Increase it.
Yes. Hold it, man. And I'm wondering, you know, what are they doing? You're on the Kansas City Business Association show. We're about one-on-one with our businesses, our business members, because we're there to serve them.
Yes.
And if we're not serving them, what is our function?
Puppeteers.
Yeah.
Or being a puppet, you're not even a puppeteer.
Yeah, and I'm saying, I think our community, and I'm talking to our viewership and really our grassroots, you really need to know who you are voting for and what they stand for. Now, I want to ask you about integrity.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see that playing in your personal life as a politician in general?
Yeah. First, I'll say that I'm a proletarian. Then second, I would say my integrity has already been tested. I've been in office since 2011. I never claimed to be perfect, but my votes identify and line up exactly with how I talk. You won't see me voting on anything that's oppressive. I don't even vote on tax increases because most of the taxes that I see is non-beneficial currently to the people in the 22nd district. I then came out against all the city proposals because again they're regressive. But my integrity has already been tested, and it's been tested in this time.
Do you think our leadership has had integrity in general? Now, you know, and I'm not pointing any fingers.
Now I'm gonna go back to what you said earlier. Look around, right? So if somebody is talking about when they first ran for office, they was gonna do A, B, and C. Have you seen that done? Have you seen them in the community? Have they actually been communicating with their constituents and making sure? In my opinion, I would say no. Since I've been in office, I don't even contact the 3rd District council members for anything in the district. I typically use the North Kansas City council member because he always shows up when I call about city issues. And I say that to say this. I believe we didn't have people down there at City Hall that agenda has been has been personal. It has nothing to do with the community. Since I've been in office, everything that I've done has been for the community.
I'm gonna switch up again. I put you in this light. I'm always talking about them girls up in D.C., Ocasio and so forth. There's a new breed out here that know what's going on, and you can't smear them. And they're talking about empirical scientific data.
Yes.
They're not talking about conjecture.
Yes.
They're saying this is wrong, and I can show you why it's wrong.
Yes.
And why did you vote for it?
Yes. And that's what we should expect. Going back to your question of integrity, we should expect people to be who they say they are and fight and articulate the concerns of their community. That's all I do. In my community, I have blacks, whites, and Latinos. But we all in the same social
and the economic.
Yes.
You know, the boat sink, we all sinking together.
Oh, we already drowning.
Yeah.
Like, we looking for lifelines in the little boats.
Tell me this, and I'm switching because of time. What do you think about African Americans that are in different positions, whether it's the post office, the city, at Walmart's, as a garbage collector, and they don't work on the behalf of other African Americans? They'll hold you back or won't give you a chance just because you look like them, trying to show that they are even-handed. What do you think about that?
I think this is when people need to actually understand the difference between culture, ethnicity, and social settings, right? So we may share ethnicity, but that does not mean we share unified culture. And I think this is why you see disunity. In order to move anything forward, we have to come to a point of understanding, whether that's culturalistically or socially. And I think culturalistically, black folks haven't self-identified themselves. We have all of these markers that are given to us, and then we have
by third parties.
Yeah, and then we have cul-de-sacs of people that buy into each one of those, and we wonder why it's not an overt painting of the brush. The reason I say that I was a proletarian because that goes to my ideology. The same when I talk about culture and ethnicity. So when I talk about people in the culture, I talk about people that share or suffer in the same economic containment. Right? So we share similarities, we share poverty, we share lack of infrastructure, we share bad schools, we share overt
high prices in everything we do. We share at the bottom of the barrel.
Yes. So therefore, we have a unified culture to actually organize and move things forward. And I think it's the same with black folks. I self-identify as either Aborigine, a black man, or a native, because this is my direct lineage that I can track. I can track my great grandmother being native. I can track her father being from Africa, and I understand the history of the world because I study world history. So I can put myself as an Aborigine, not only due to the melanin in my skin, but the lineage in which I come from.
And that all comes from education.
Oh yeah, now you got to read,
Yeah, you have to read. When I had Clay Chastain here yesterday, and my guy Dan Coffey from Citizens for Responsible Government, and I was talking about my blackness and why we're where we're at, and I was saying to him, showed him a clip that our first Kansas City business show for 219, and John Webster was running it down about that at the end of the Civil War, we were the only skilled people out here, and the government had to come in and make laws where we couldn't use our skills to advance.
Yeah.
And they didn't know that. That's the whole thing.
Hey, I got one I actually want to throw in just because we on the air, and it goes back to the question of culture. So when I first ran for the Black Caucus, it was African American elected state officials in that political organization calling members in St. Louis saying you can't elect Ellington because he's too ghetto. I'm not ghetto, I'm hood. Different mentality,
Right.
different culture in which I come from. I ultimately became the chair of the Black Caucus because I do good work. But that goes to the mentality and the fragmentations that we have in the community. We have too many self-identified folks that say they represent people that they don't share any type of commonality with except for ethnicity. And understanding ethnicity and culture as a separate entity is extremely important. It's the reason why we had the field in the house. It was the reason why you had certain people that was fighting to get slaves free and other people that was going to the
Listen,
mass.
man,
but it goes to ideology.
I'm so disgusted with our middle class because straight out, it's about these little groups that they get in that really separate them from the community. Mm-hmm. They won't look in the mirror and look at themselves and really see where they at. They feel they've made it and they deserve it.
Yeah.
You do deserve it. But look where you came from. Yeah. Look where your people came from.
Yeah.
What you deserve, you've been following the rules. That's the only way you out there.
That goes back to the issues that we've been having in the inner city.
Yeah.
So when you have leadership that believes that they're superior and separate from the common person, you have no universal benefits for the common person because that's not who they're fighting for. And as people, we have to start understanding this. We have to start understanding somebody's culturalistic influence and what they're ultimately going to be fighting for. If they don't see themselves in the same circumstances that you're in, they're not there to represent you. It's impossible.
And that doesn't mean that they're bad people. You know, yeah, right. That's the thing. See, when we get on these
that just means they
sensitive.
That just means they shouldn't represent you.
Yeah,
not that they're bad people.
But that's the thing I'm saying, where we start getting into the personalities, because when you start bringing these things up, now it's like you pointing fingers. No, I'm talking about issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, if the shoe fit, wear it.
You're gonna have to wear it.
Yeah, but I'm talking about issues, and these issues are affecting our community because that same middle class, that same educated class, you're in better position to bring the whole out of the doldrums that we're in.
You should be if you keep it authentic. Now I'm just gonna go back to the state. I had a Republican come up to me a couple years ago. And not trying to be racist, not trying to be funny. He was like, Ellington, you know why we like you? I was like, why? He was like, you're really black. I was like, he said, don't take that the wrong way. I was like, nah, you cool, boy. He said, but you don't come up here and you don't try to act any different and you fight for your community tooth and nail. And we respect that. Meaning I don't come up there and I don't try to sugarcoat anything. I don't change the...
your dynamics, who you are, and they will respect that much better than if you... Hey, we cool, and then the next minute, Black Power, Ungawa. No.
And I'm going to use Crossroads as an example. When I did a 3-hour live streaming on Crossroads on the inmates that was in there, the first thing that one of the senators said when I came up, he was like, I didn't know they were so articulate. Because the image of people in the correctional facilities is that they're animals. He was actually shocked that they was on camera, not only talking about the problems, but had viable solutions to actually fix what was happening in there with their manpower, their working, etc. And he was extremely impressed, and that goes again for observation and participation. He was able to observe people in the realm in which he has never observed them and listen to them, and it changed his mindset. He signed the letter. It changed his mindset on what was happening in there. And overtly, that's what we have to start doing. We have to pull the covers off and allow people to observe things in its true fashion, and then I believe we'll have a much better body politics and a much more engaged community.
In closing, this has been a very interesting conversation. Got me all excited, talking all loud. People be like, Nelson, get some savoir-faire about yourself. At least you can pose as an interviewer. Get yourself in order. Do you have any closing words for our audience?
No, I would like to encourage people to get engaged, to pay attention. If you'd like to see more of the legislation that I sponsored or supported, go to the House website. You have a list of all my bills. I am running for 3rd District City Council at large, and I have a track record of actually not only bringing home wins, but putting in work. And if you would like to get engaged, please reach out to me, Elect Ellington at sbcglobal.net or electellington.com. And together, let's change politics as usual in Kansas City.
Hey, audience, and remember, when you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself. Good night.
It's fun.
This program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.